But I wanted to go ahead and make an introduction to Kiley Peters. I'm really excited about this. I've known Kiley for a few years now, pretty much. I can't believe I keep saying since COVID with a lot of things in my life, but I've known Kiley since just after COVID began. And she was a big help to me with a number of things having to do with consulting, marketing. And she's taught me a lot. And as she's also a certified exit planning advisor like me, and we share that in common. So we've kind of bounced ideas back and forth. And I just when I was putting the plan together for this year for our Libertas clients as well as our Elevate clients, and I was trying to think, who would be some great speakers to come in and really add value and really, provide some information that we haven't provided before, and something from a completely different angle. And I've seen her speak before. She's phenomenal on stage. That's the only thing I wish that could be better today is that this could be literally on stage in front of a group of a bunch of people as opposed to the webinar. But she's hailing from another state, so we're going to have to do it the webinar way today. So, with that being said, Kiley stands as a beacon of entrepreneurial excellence and inspiration with a career spanning over 2 decades that has been marked by international accolades, transformative leadership, and a relentless pursuit of empowering women in business. As the visionary founder of Brainchild Studios, she led the digital content and marketing agency to remarkable heights, achieving 7 figures in revenue, 6 figures in profit. And if you don't know anything about business, that's difficult to do. And a team of 30 team members within just 6 years before strategically, and this is the infinitive word here, strategically dissolving it in 2022 to focus on a new mission. You want to talk about reinventing yourself. You build a company to 7 figures in revenue, 6 figures in profit, 30 team members, and then you shut it down. So that's what she did. Her current venture, Rain, and then, do you pronounce it as Rain 9?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Epitomizes her commitment to guiding women business owners through the intricate journey of company exits, ensuring they maximize their company's value while fostering a leadership culture that thrives on ownership and strategic foresight. Beyond her business adventures, Kiley is an esteemed speaker, as you're about to find out, sharing her wealth of knowledge on entrepreneurship, business strategy, exit planning, and leadership development at prestigious platforms, including the Exit Planning Summit, which I've seen personally, Google, and content marketing world. Her journey is not just a testament to her expertise and success, but a profound narrative of empowering female entrepreneurs to architect their futures and redefine the landscape of leadership and business strategy today. So, Kiley, thank you so much for being a part of our world here in Columbus, Ohio, or Ohio in general. And I'll let you take it from there.
Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Adam. All right. Well, we are here to talk about making business personal, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But we're specifically going to talk about aligning your work to build greater purpose in your life. So, great, my clicker works, so this is good. Before we jump into too many things, as Adam just did a lovely job introducing me, thank you so much. I am Kiley Peters. I'm here with you for the next roughly hour. I am the current founder of Rain 9. And as Adam said, we're an executive leadership consultancy. We work with a lot of women small business owners to help them build businesses in alignment with their personal goals and values. And if after today you decide you want to hear more of my voice on a regular basis, you can tune in to Welcome to Eloma. That's my podcast. We've been running for about the last 2 years. In a couple of weeks, we will be launching a second podcast called Make Business Personal, which will be a weekly podcast with little business tips from yours truly. So if after today you haven't heard enough from me, don't worry, there's more where that came from. All right, let's get into it. So 100,000 hours. Just think to yourself, any ideas? Why am I tossing this number out there? You don't have to say anything, don't worry. I know we're like lunchtime. But 100,000 hours. This is most likely the minimum number of hours we're probably spending working in our lifetime, assuming the average age of retirement is 66. 100,000 hours minimum. That's the equivalent of working nonstop 24/7, 365 for about 11 and a half years straight. Okay, did Andy raise his hand? Adam, if you want to just check the chat or anything. But yes, that's the equivalent of working about 11 and a half years straight, 24/7, 365. And I don't know about you guys, but I could think of a lot of other things I'd love to do with my life than to work for 11 and a half years straight. But the reality is that we spend a lot of our life working to afford the lives that we want. We spend a lot of our time working to afford the lives that we want. But life is short. And currently in the United States, our average life expectancy is about 76 years old. 76. So if on average we retire at 66, that means that we have about 10 years left to live after we retire. Bottom line is that we cannot wait to live until after we retire. So if we're going to spend roughly half of our adult lives working, we got to do something about this. And I propose that we make business personal. Because let's be honest, life is just too short not to. Now, you've probably heard the phrase, it's just personal, it's just business, it's not personal, or some version of this before, right? Maybe you picked it up from The Godfather, or some client that fired you, or a previous boss that fired you. But have you ever realized that this statement is only ever said when something bad happens? Like when somebody else has made a decision that impacts you that you likely had no say over, and you're just being told to deal with it. Like that's the only time this ever pops up. I mean, seriously, nobody ever says, here's a $10,000 bonus, but it's just business. Don't take it personal. Like that never happens. It's only ever tied to negativity. So what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And where do we start? So we start by defining success. You see, in order to truly be successful, we need to be really honest with ourselves in terms of what we actually want. And I don't mean what our friends and family have told us we're supposed to want or what society has brainwashed us into thinking we're supposed to want. I mean, what do we actually want? But like, seriously, what do we actually want? Because we are all different human beings. We are all different people. We have different wants, we have different needs, we have different passions and aspirations and dreams. We are not the same. And therefore, we can no longer accept a universal definition of success. It needs to be personal because success, like business, is deeply personal. I know this because at the beginning of 2021, this was me. And this was actually about the time that I probably met Adam. But this was me at the beginning of 2021. This was from a photo shoot. I was like all shiny and new. I was so well rested. It was so beautiful. Thank you to whoever edited this photo. But for me, I started the 2021. I was laser focused on making my agency wildly successful, right? And to me at that time, success, because that's what everybody was telling me, was making sure I was hitting 7 figures in revenue, double-digit profits, building a big team, the whole 9 yards, and that was success. And I was making moves to make it happen. But the truth is that I was living a double life. In one life, I was leading the agency I've been running for the past 5 years with dozens of team members and accolades and international clients and awards, etc. But in another life, I had started my consultancy, taking on more strategic business projects because that's the work I really, 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 really wanted to do. Now, I had a lot of decisions that I was torn between, primarily what people expected of me and what I wanted to do. And I think I was binge watching Ted Lasso at the time. So if there are any Ted Lasso fans out there, highly recommended. But the lovely Dr. Sharon Fieldstone came on and she said, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. Now, this was not the first time I'd heard some version of this message, but it was really what I needed to hear at the time. I mean, I knew I had to be honest with myself. I was killing myself in a lot of ways. I spent almost the entire year of 2021 bouncing back and forth from my agency to my consultancy, trying to figure out what I really wanted. And I crashed and I burned fabulously in doing so. So I highly don't recommend that. But I got there. I got there. I was really honest with myself. I got really clear on what I wanted. And I defined success for myself for the first time in my life. And I ended up flipping the script on everything in my professional life accordingly. You see, I believe that in order for us to live lives we want, we have to first define success for ourselves as individuals. And then we need to align our work and our businesses accordingly. In order to live the lives we want, we have to start with ourselves. We have to do internal work on ourselves and then align the work we do accordingly. And for business owners, this is oftentimes your business. So great, Kiley. Cool. How do we define success? This vague idea, right? Have no fear. I have created a framework I call the DNA of success, the definition and alignment of success. Now, at its core, this framework is pretty simple. It asks you to first define success for yourself as a whole human being, which is really important and key, and then align the work you do to your personal definition of success. But this, like I said, it requires you getting really, really honest with yourself, and that's not easy. But I really, really recommend that you give it a shot because it's totally worth it and it can absolutely change your life. And because I want you to all live your very best lives and truly define success for yourself, I'm going to share the framework with you. So here we go. So the DNA of success has 4 phases, SELF, self. That was very intentional. And it has 2 tracks. We talk about the individual and then we're going to talk about the business. So we will introduce and we'll touch on the business side of things, but today I'm really going to hone in and give you prompts and exercises that you can start tackling to identify and define success for yourself. And then we'll also allude to how that shows up in the work that we do in our businesses accordingly. So the 4 phases of this process are significance, energy, leadership, and facts. And when we define success for ourselves first, because again, this is important, and then we align the work that we do accordingly, we fill our time, hopefully you see what I did there, little hourglass shape. We fill our time in very intentional ways, leading to a much more fulfilling life. So let's get into it. All right, phase 1 is significance. So the big question that we're asking here is what is your significance and or your purpose, right? So for you as a human being, what is your personal purpose? What is your significance? Why are you here? It's why are you here? Who are you meant to serve? What you're meant to do in this life, etc. Right? And it makes it a lot easier to figure out what you say yes and what you say no to when you get really clear on what this personal purpose looks like for you. Now, when we talk about your business, oftentimes people might talk about this as a vision statement. This could be a purpose statement, etc. It could also be relevant to a company and internal department. Like, what is the purpose of your department? What is the purpose of your role? What is the purpose of the organization as a whole, right? So why does it exist? And oftentimes, especially from a business standpoint, one of the things we want to think about is like, what is the change we want to see in the world as a result of the work that we do, and who are we dedicated to making the world a better place for? In a perfect world, that's what we like it to look like, right? Now, there are a lot of ways to back into purpose. If anybody on this call has ever done purpose work, whether personal work or within your business, etc., or the role that you have, there's a lot of different ways to back into it. There's all kinds of different frameworks, etc., to build purpose statements. But I think that there's a shortcut. And here it is. It's from our friend, Jay Shetty. And Jay Shetty said, serve the pain you know best in his book, Think Like a Monk. Now, this is a heavy statement, but I really encourage you to think about it. Like, just sit with it for a moment. Because we've all, as human beings, we have all experienced a lot of life. We've all experienced a lot of joy. We've all experienced the good and the not so good, and sometimes even the ugly. But oftentimes it's going through those really hard things that allow us to truly appreciate the beauty in life. Like if everything was always just good all of the time, oftentimes we wouldn't realize how good we have it, right? So what pain do you know best? I want you to think about that. And as I did this work for myself, because yes, I have done this work for myself as well, I realized that going back through my life, I was constantly being told that I wasn't enough or that I needed a man to provide for me. Now picture me at 18 years old. So it's 18 years old. I'm 18 years old. It's 6 a.m. And just for the record, I am not a morning person at all. But, I was young. I could get up and stay up late. I could survive on no sleep. So 6 a.m. and I'm serving breakfast to a gentleman at the men's only room at the country club that I worked at. Now, I'm not a fan of the fact that women were only allowed to be in that room to serve men, but that's a whole nother conversation. So anyway, I'm doing my job. And I asked this man, what would you like for breakfast? Good morning. What would you like for breakfast? And so he rattles off his order and then he starts to, make small talk with me, finds out that I'm about to embark in my freshman year of college. And I'm so excited. I share all of the things that I'm most excited about in this exciting new adventure, right? And he goes, yeah, don't worry about that. Just marry some man for his money. And I was like, he's kidding, right? Like, that's a joke. That's a joke, right? He goes, so I say, I'm like, okay, he's trying to make a joke. It's 6 a.m. Maybe I didn't catch it. Great, got it. I was like, oh, ha ha ha. I like to think that there's more to marriage than money. And he goes, no, seriously, just marry a man for his money. And I was like, cool. How would you like your eggs? And yes, that is a true story. That is how I entered my adulthood. And that was the beginning of a number of scenarios where I was told what I could or couldn't do, should or shouldn't be, what I was and wasn't capable of. I was told by a former boss that my opinion didn't matter because I was plain vanilla. I was told by a former roommate that I had to move home after college because, well, duh, what was I supposed to do? That was my only option. I was told by former boyfriends that I wasn't ladylike enough or nurturing enough. I was too loud, too quiet, too smart. I asked too many questions. I spent over a decade being told by so many people that I wasn't enough of something, that I couldn't stand on my own. But I also had the great fortune of growing up with parents who relentlessly told me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. So I knew these people weren't right, but they definitely had me questioning things. And if they had me questioning my worth, my value, my potential, then what were they doing to all these other women who didn't know that they were completely bogus? So I bring this back because this is all what this was the foundation to my career. I started my entrepreneurial venture shortly after that breakfast encounter doing graphic design work. And I've now spent 20 years ebbing and flowing in the world of entrepreneurship. And a few years ago, when I asked myself what pain I knew that once I named it for myself, right? I knew that I had to change my career trajectory. So I'd spent my entire career in marketing and I still love marketing and I'm great at marketing. But it became clear to me that my personal purpose was to help women build the lives that they want, to know that they are exactly enough as they are, and that my vehicle of change was through entrepreneurship and helping people to adapt an owner's mindset because it's your life. You are in control, you are in charge. And if you're not taking ownership, then who the heck is? So an ownership mindset over not just our work, but also ourselves. So again, I go back to that. What pain do you know best? That, I believe, is a shortcut to finding your personal purpose. So that's my first exercise, my first prompt for you is as you're trying to define success for yourself, I want you to think about what pain you know best. Now, as we go to the other side of things and we think about, okay, well, what does this look like in my business or my role, my department, my business? This is what this looks like, right? So how does this translate into our business? At Ray 9, my consultancy, we help women build life-changing companies that align with their personal goals and values. We provide education, we provide resources, and the communities needed to grow in ways that resonate best with them. So this is a photo from a workshop that I did last year. I have built a business that aligns with my personal purpose. And that's what I recommend everybody think about in terms of when you're running your own business. It's the work that you do if you're potentially employed by somebody else. Like, how can you align those two things? They don't have to mirror each other, right? That might get too close. But how do you align them? So think about what that could mean for you, your business, your department, etc. And what aligns and what doesn't align. And if it doesn't align with your personal purpose, what needs to change? That's personal. That's personal. All right. Moving on to phase 2, energy. So the big question that we're asking here is, how should you be spending your time and your energy? Now, from a business perspective, we're asking the same question, just for the record. It goes on both sides. So personally, how should you be spending your time and energy? And from a business standpoint, how should your business be spending its time and energy? What problems should it be solving? Who should it be solving it for, etc. Right? Now, let's take a second to talk about energy. I'm not an energy expert in the traditional sense, but I do think that there's a lot that we can think about in terms of how energy relates to the energy that we harness as human beings. So, what I'd like to introduce you to is a little concept I call LEDs, leading energy drainers and drivers. So you're not going to find this in a textbook anywhere. I made this concept up. But I think that it really encapsulates what we're about to talk to. So this concept is heavily influenced by LED light bulbs. Now, LED light bulbs and traditional light bulbs both have similar outputs, right? They do. They do. I Googled it, so you know that that's true. But they have similar outputs. But the cool thing is that even though they have similar outputs, LED light bulbs can use up to 90% less energy than traditional light bulbs and last about 25 times longer. So think about that. I know this is not a plug for you to go buy LED light bulbs, but I want you to think about that in terms of energy, right? So what if we were to spend the majority of our time and energy doing the things that came more naturally to us, that used less energy? Think of how much more we could actually accomplish and how much more likely we would be to avoid burnout, how much more time we'd have to spend with our families, to go for a walk, to read, to be still. I mean, when we think of how this actually stacks up and the impact it could have on our life and our work, it's really big. It's really big. But sometimes it's hard to recognize without actually seeing it. So this is the second exercise that I'm going to ask you to do. Maybe not right now, but take a note and do this for yourself at some point. So this is my request for you. I want you to take a piece of paper. I want you to split it down the half, not actually split it, like draw a line down the half. And on one side, go like the long way, right? On one side, I want you to write drainers. On the other side, I want you to write drivers. Now, on the drainers side, this is where I want you to write down everything that you're currently doing that you loathe doing, like that you can't stand doing, the things that you know will only take you 5 minutes, but you're going to procrastinate for like an entire week to actually do. Put those down. Sometimes it's helpful to like go back and look at your calendar and be like, here's everything I did. Oh, I hated doing this and I love doing that, etc. Right? But I want you to think about this personally and professionally, because there's actually a lot of different creative connections that we can make. And when we look at like our personal lives and our professional lives, potentially. So I want you to write down everything that you loathe doing. This could be strategy. It could be executing tasks. It could be picking your kids up from school. It could be making dinner. It could be loading or unloading the dishwasher. It could be mowing the yard. It could be whatever it is, right? Write it all down. And then I want you to circle all of the things that you could delegate to somebody else, that somebody else could do just as well, maybe even better than you. Now, it's okay if you don't know who you would actually delegate that to yet, but this is a starting point, right? This is giving you a starting point to see all of the things that you like literally see all of the things that you're currently doing that bring you no joy and no happiness that somebody else could actually be doing. Oftentimes we put ourselves through misery for sometimes no good reason. So take a look at that. That's the first list, right? Now the second list is your drivers. In this list, I want you to write down all of the things that you love doing, personally and professionally. So everything that drives your energy, the things that you get lost for hours doing, the things that you can't stop talking about at dinner parties, which are probably also the things that people tell you you should stop talking about at dinner parties, the things that you talk to your significant other about all the time, right? These are the things that you get lost. Like for me, it's spreadsheets. I know it sounds so nerdy and so terrible, but I love diving into a nerdy spreadsheet. Like 4 hours later, I'm like, what happened? Time flies when you're having fun, right? But all of the things that you love doing, again, this could be strategy. This could be taking time with your family. This is whatever, like just delights you, right? So now you have these lists. You can see all of the things that you have the potential to take off your plate and all of the things that drive your energy. Now, my challenge to you is to make a commitment to yourself to make 3 changes. Whatever, and just 3 changes. It's not like 15, right? But 3 things that need to change. Choose 3 things that honestly you can't afford not to change. And the 3 things that will make the greatest impact. And oftentimes I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I can't afford to delegate this, or I can't afford that. But the reality is that you can't afford not to in a lot of cases. I mean, we don't get more time. The only way we get more time is by buying somebody else's or potentially automating, right? So think about what else you could be doing in the quality of life that you are potentially sacrificing by doing the things that drain your energy. So what does this look like in our business, right? Or in a potential business? Let's take a look at a fellow business owner, Amanda. So Amanda built her commercial decor business to over $1 million in annual revenue over the course of about a decade. She had a 5,000 square foot warehouse and she had 8 different employees. Now, for a lot of small business owners, on paper, she's totally killing it, right? That's what a lot of small business owners dream of. We know that not a lot of people hit 7 figures in revenue. But what might surprise you is even though she's making over $1 million in annual revenue, she's only paying herself about 80 grand a year and working 80 hours a week. On top of that, she's also got about $300,000 of debt from her original startup costs and pandemic loans. Not awesome, right? So at the end of 2020, she came to me and she goes, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get out of my business. How do I get out of my business? So I got curious because that's a big statement, right? And we should ask questions. So I'm like, okay, got it. Tell me more. Tell me more. Let's understand. And she says, my team is causing so much unnecessary drama. I don't want to spend my time and energy managing people anymore, which is no surprise because a lot of people have said the same thing to me. And she basically was like, I need to work less and find better balance in my life because I'm working way too much. And she was frankly just ready for the next thing. She'd been doing this for a decade. She was ready to move on to whatever came next. And she goes, so I would love to either sell and do nothing for a while so I could just get my life back, or it would be fine if I could just downsize and simplify things. So we worked together, and over the next 2 years, we were able to get really clear on what she wanted. And then we did a profit analysis and we were able to streamline her service offerings, which allowed us to reduce her headcount by 50%, which really helped her in the fact that she didn't want to manage people anymore. We also were able to, because we did that profit analysis and we reduced headcount, we were able to increase profitability 330%. So just like Adam said earlier, like revenue is a great number, but it's really what hits the bottom line, right? We increased our profit by over 300%. And we were able to reduce her time in the business by 75%. So she went from working like 80-hour weeks to working like 20 hours a week. And she was like, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore. Now I have time. What is this? And in addition to that, she ended up doubling her personal income. She also continued to increase revenue year over year as well. So my question to you is, what are you currently doing that you shouldn't be doing? And I don't know about you guys, but doubling your income and reclaiming about 60 hours a week, well, I'd say that's personal. That's personal. Okay, phase three. Phase three is leadership. So the big question that we're asking here is, what do you want? And how are you going to make it happen? Essentially, how are you going to lead yourself and or your team to make your goals happen, right? So I love asking people this question. I love asking people what they want. But the thing is, a lot of people haven't taken the time to think about this. I've asked so many people this question, and oftentimes people say, well, I don't know. Or they say that nobody's ever asked them. So I want you to think about this for yourself. If you haven't taken time to think about what you want, take the next couple minutes to think about what this looks like for you. And I want you to think about it in 3 different categories: personally, financially, and professionally. Now, it's important that we start with personally first because everything builds on personally. So personally, I want you to think of what you want. Now, a lot of times we think about like the things that we want, which is all well and good, and that's a good starting point. So it might be, okay, I want a lake house, I want a speedboat, I want a fancy sports car, I want a vacation home, whatever it is, right? So that's one thing. But I would also ask you to think about, what are the experiences that you want to have? How do you want to spend your time? Like, do you want to take the month of July off every year and, I don't know, go flee to Europe and enjoy yourself, whatever that might be? Do you want to be at every single soccer game? Do you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro? Like, what experiences, what kind of life do you actually really want to live? And then also think about like how you want to be, the state of being, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. How do you want to be? Right? So there's a lot to unpack here, but this is very much the most important place to start, because you have to get really clear on what you want as a human being in order for the next things to matter, right? So once you get clear on what you want as a human being, then I want you to, now we all know that the best things in life are free, but most of the things that we want cost money. So, and they're not free. So we need to make money to pay for them, right? So that's why financially comes next. So now that you're clear on what you want personally as a whole human being, what financial benchmarks and milestones do you need to hit in order to make those things happen, right? And because for many of us, we make our money through the work that we do, what professional milestones and benchmarks do you need to hit in order to hit the financial milestones and benchmarks you need in order to make your personal life happen? So that's what I want you to think about when you think about what you want, okay? And then again, obviously, once we get clear on what we want, personally, financially, professionally, then we need to build an action plan and a roadmap to make it happen. So I would recommend mapping it out. And then a lot of times it's helpful to do like a long term. I would do like long term, multiple years. And then I would take a look at like the next 12 months and get really clear and tactical on what you want to do there. And then I would break it down by quarter. And I would say, don't try to accomplish more than like 3 big things in each quarter. Otherwise, it gets wildly overwhelming. I also speak from experience because in one quarter, I decided to shut down a business, start a business, get married, and plan a honeymoon all at the same time. Don't recommend that. But again, that's also why you need to keep in mind your personal and your professional lives, because you are still the same person, right? So if you're like, oh, I have 3 big things personally and I have 3 big things professionally, it's too many things. 3 in total, right? 3 in total. So like I said, I love to ask people what they want. And oftentimes, it's helpful to hear some examples. So let's talk about Donna. So Donna came to me a couple years ago, and she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do next in life. And so I asked her my favorite question. I said, well, Donna, what do you want? And for Donna, tears welled up in her eyes because she said, no one has ever asked me that. Now, Donna has run a CPA firm She's run her CPA firm for over 16 years. She has over 700 clients. She has a team of 5 people. She's working 80 to 100 hours a week, 9 months out of the year. She was totally burnt out. But this woman in her mid 50s, she had lost her mother when she was really, really young. She essentially raised her younger sister. She had 4 kids of her own. She put them all through college, and she's had a 30+ year career running, most of which has been running the CPA firm. But either nobody's ever asked her what she wanted, and she's never taken the time to articulate it. So again, life happens sometimes, and nobody's judging, but take the time because you don't want it to speed by you. And then you realize, like, what am I doing, right? So I ask her again. I say, okay, Donna, let's talk about it. Like, let's get into it. What do you want? And after a little bit of discussion, she says, okay, well, my husband and I have been saving, and I'm tired. I would like to exit my firm, and I'd like to escape to this dream house that we want to build on the Tennessee River. I was like, okay, well, that sounds quite lovely. And then I asked a little bit further, and we found out that, yes, she wants to get out of this current line of work, but she still likes to do the work, right? And she wants to now open up a tax strategy consultancy and just have a handful of clients. And that would be great, right? She knew her numbers. She knew what numbers she needed to make. She was all the things, right? So we figured out what she wanted personally, financially, professionally, and made a plan. And let me tell you, within 18 months, Donna had sold her firm. She had started her tax strategy consulting business. And I was actually sitting next to her when she found out that the plot of land that they had gone to purchase was accepted on the Tennessee River. So getting clear on what you want, creating a plan to make it happen, and having trusted people to hold you accountable. I mean, you guys, that's how dreams come true. And that's pretty personal. That's personal. Now, phase 4, the last phase here, is facts. And here we're just asking, like, okay, what are the facts? What do we need? What do we need to know? What are the facts? Oftentimes, as we build our lives, we build our businesses, emotions can play a role here, and I'm all for the emotions, but sometimes they cloud us, right? So we got to just streamline things. What are the facts? What is true, right? And oftentimes, this really means like breaking down the resources and dollars that we need to make everything that we've planned come to fruition. So both personally and within the work that we do. So, and let me also just say this, just like every other step of this process, this is all going to look different for each person, right? There's no right or wrong way to go about this. However, I will gladly offer up this quote by Dan Sullivan, who's an entrepreneur, coach, and author. As this friendly reminder that we do not have to do everything ourselves. He wrote an entire book on this concept called Who, Not How. So the whole book is all about figuring out what needs to get done, who needs to do it, and then they will figure out how, right? We just need to figure out what and who. We don't have to figure out how to do everything. And I think this is really important because especially as we build our lives, that go by so fast, and we build our businesses, we build our careers, sometimes this is a challenge. And again, we don't take the time to ask ourselves what we want. We don't make intentional decisions. We just make the easy decisions or don't disrupt the flow. But we really need to take the time to look in the mirror and be super honest with ourselves. Like super honest with, if you're not going to be honest with you, I don't know what, like, you're the driver, man. We need to be really honest with ourselves. We need to do that so that we can identify our purpose, so we can figure out how we should be spending our time and energy, so we can more easily name what we really want and create that action plan to make it happen. And then identify the facts, the knowledge, and the resources that we need to make those things happen. So my question for you is, what truths are you ignoring? Because when we do those things, when we get honest with ourselves, we fill our time in very intentional ways, leading to a more fulfilling life. And that, my friends, is also personal. Now, for anybody here who's an employer, I hope that you can start to see ways that you can better invest in your team. Anybody who might be employed by someone else, I hope you can see how you can potentially be a better advocate for yourself. And for all of the entrepreneurs and business owners here, I hope you can start to see some of the ways that you can leverage your business to build the life that you want. And I also want to let you know that for all of us, it worked out, right? For me, once I got clear on what I wanted, we had an incredible year in my agency. And then I implemented a 12-month exit strategy, just like Adam said before. He's like, why did you build it? And then you shut it down. I was unhappy. I was really unhappy. I didn't want to do that work anymore. So I implemented a 12-month exit strategy to shut down my agency in pursuit of the work that I really, really love. I mean, like I said, we spend a lot of our lives working, right? What a benefit to do the work that you love. And I did so because this is the work that aligns with my personal purpose. And it absolutely was not easy, but it was for sure the right move for me. And Amanda, she exited her business last year and she ended up partnering with another company, creating a passive revenue stream from a client that she had relationships with for years and years and years. Now we've helped her actually launch a coaching business focusing on helping entrepreneurs avoid burnout. And Donna also sold her CPA business last year. She launched her new tax strategy, and she's now making double what she was before, working about 20 to maybe 30 hours a week. And as I said, she's building her dream home on the Tennessee River. So it all worked out. And it worked out because we started with ourselves first. We must make business personal if we want to succeed in living the lives we want for ourselves and our families. We must define success for ourselves as whole human beings first, and then align the work we do to our personal definition of success. I did this. Dozens of my clients have done this, and you can do this too. Now, before you go to bed tonight, I want you to think about and finish the answer to this sentence. I want you to finish this sentence. I want you to think about, I'll know I'm successful when. Just fill in the blank. See what happens. See what pops up. You might surprise yourself. And you might also realize that some things need to change. And that's okay. That's okay. Now, change doesn't typically happen overnight, but it will never happen if you don't start. And the truth is, you'll miss out on the life that you actually want, the life that you deserve, the one that you really want to live. And it's the only one you got. So don't waste it chasing someone else's dream or someone else's definition of success. Make business personal. Thank you. These are QR codes to connect with me on LinkedIn, as well as sign up for our newsletter if anybody is interested.
Kylie, that was awesome. It was enthusiastic. It was exciting. And I don't know about you, but any of you that are listening or watching right now, but it was motivating. I'm all pumped up now. I actually
Good.
I read well, I listened to because I don't read books. I listen to them both Who Not How and 10X is Easier Than 2X. Dan Sullivan's
Yep.
amazing. But as far as Q&A goes, Kylie was nice enough to leave about 14 minutes here for Q&A. We always make all our questions anonymous on purpose because we found that people are more comfortable asking questions if they're not thrown out in front of everybody. So all questions, if you have any, are completely and totally private and confidential. All you need to do is type whatever your questions are in the Q&A or the chat. I've got both of them open right here, and Kim's looking at them too, in case I missed some. And we'll read them off until our hard stop at 2 p.m. here today, Eastern. If we do run out of time and there's still questions that remain, they'll be sent to by Kylie. They'll be answered by Kylie personally and sent directly to you. So while we wait for those questions to compile in the chat and Q&A, I just want to do a couple little marketing drops here. Visit libertaswealth.com to check out past educational events like this one. This is going to be, it's been recorded. We're going to replay it. It's going to be on the YouTube page on our website. So you can watch it back if you'd like, pass it along to your friends, coworkers, fellow business associates, business owners. But on libertaswealth.com, you can not only check out the past events, but webinars, podcasts, articles. You can actually sign up on the website to get the updates on all this educational material sent directly to your inbox as soon as it's released. You can subscribe to whichever medium you typically prefer, whether it's watching, listening for educational information. Like Libertas has a YouTube page where you're not only going to find these videos, past and live recorded events, but you'll also find the Retirement Fiduciary podcast, which is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. However, just as an FYI, we only replay these webinars on YouTube because obviously they're visual, but we reserve our podcasts for all three. And speaking of podcasts, I'm going to be having Kiley on the Retirement Fiduciary podcast here. I think next week we're recording it, but we're releasing it on March 21st. So if you sign up, you'll get that alert when it pops out. Gina will be sending out a survey in the next day or two so that we can get your feedback. And it's really important to us that you take a few minutes to fill out those surveys, not only so we can get better at what we're doing, but also we love to hear if you have any ideas in terms of educational content you'd like to hear, topics, speakers, webinar, podcast guests. We'd love to hear it. So next month's webinar, easy for me to say, for business owners only is Elevate. At Elevate, it's titled 9 Digital Marketing Musts for Business Today. So it's digital domination, 9 digital marketing musts for business today. And then the next Libertas webinar, which is going to be in May, is matrimony. So we're doing a little play on words there for Mother's Day. But I'll go. It looks like we have a couple questions here that are teed up. So let me go through them. And again, as I'm reading these, feel free to post some additional if you'd like. First question, let's see, is can you provide an example of a strategy or tool that's been most effective for you in mastering the different aspects of time management and delegation in terms of how important it is when it comes to work-life balance?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question.
Is there such thing as work-life balance?
Yeah, I like the phrase like work-life blend. That's been work-life integration. That's been a nice phrase I've enjoyed. One thing I would say that's been really helpful for me is time batching. So, we have all the types of things that we need to do every week instead of, if you have like a blog post you need to review and you have client work to do and you have new business calls to take or whatever, trying to batch those so that your brain stays in the same flow for each type of thing. So, for example, I typically don't take calls on Mondays and Fridays because Mondays I'm like doing big thinking things. But you can't do big thinking things in 45-minute sections between like throughout the week, right? So I keep that, whether that's like client facing work or that's big thinking things like I'm building my infrastructure for my business or thought leadership, etc. And then Friday, I also keep that open. One, it gives me a little bit of a break at the end of the week. And then I also will wrap up any of like the small things that have come throughout the week. And then I'm like, oh, I just need to get this over with. Because what I found before was if I didn't do that, I'd spend Saturday morning wrapping up the things that I didn't get through for the week, and I'd spend Sunday prepping for Monday. And so then you're working truly 7 days a week with no stop, which let's be honest, as business owners, sometimes that happens, but we try really hard not to. But similarly, if I keep, only a certain days open to take client facing calls or biz dev calls, etc., that helps me just stay in a flow and be more effective in the way I do things. But I also have a friend who's a time management coach. Like that is her whole jam. And so if you would like to learn more or be introduced to her, I would be happy to do that for whoever asked that question.
Awesome. All right, got another one here. You mentioned the importance of creating a personalized action plan for purposeful life, or I'm sorry, for a purposeful life. What are the first steps someone should take to begin the process of putting together a personalized action plan, especially if I'm feeling overwhelmed by my current professional situation, uncertain about my goals, all while being strapped for time?
Whoever just asked that question, I really hope you reach out to me directly because I would love to chat with you. Because that's really, I mean, A, thank you for asking the question. And B, that's exactly everything that we do at Rain 9, right? So we help people define success for themselves and then build their work life in alignment, right? So not to beat a dead horse, but what I would say first is get really clear on what you want. Define success for yourself because so often, and I know that sometimes that sounds like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to ask the hard questions. I don't want to spend the time. But really, you have to. Like, you can't find the professional answers. Like, you can't figure out what your professional dream is if you haven't taken the time to answer those things for yourself. And I'll tell you, I worked with a coach for 3.5 years as I was building my agency and transitioning into Reign 9. And it took me a while, and I actually started Reign 9 much earlier than I had planned on. Um, but I needed to find that clarity in order to have the conviction to make that difficult decision to make the change. And honestly, that's what I've seen with a lot of the clients that we've worked with. They're at this pivot point. They're like, I've been doing this thing for a while. I either don't love it anymore, or something needs to change, or I need to realign, or I'm not happy. I'm not either making the money, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the fulfillment. I never see my family. All of those types of things pop up. And it's like, okay, great. Let's get really clear on what you want and how you define success. Because for some people, they might say, I want to work 20 hours a week. And some people might want to work 60 hours a week. Some people might want to take July and December off. And some people might want to do one-on-one coaching calls all of the time. And other people might want to do, big strategy projects. Like it just depends. And so that's what we have to get really clear on, and like for you what you want. And then we get really creative and we take a look at the business side of things and whether or not you work for yourself or you work for somebody else. Then we start to craft, like, what does that perfect business model look like? What are those productized services look like? What's the potential money making opportunity here? And then how can that allow you to live the life that would bring you greater peace, greater joy, greater fulfillment?
All right. Now,
So I
by the way,
guess in short, I'd say define success for yourself first.
I'll be dropping the contact information for Kiley at the very end here, by the way. And it'll also be on on all the marketing material that goes out as well. So if you do want to reach out, that'll be easy. So okay, here's another one. In your own journey of self-discovery, you talk about the importance of mixing personal life with business life, or said another way, aligning professional ambitions with personal values. Can you share a story or instance where you witnessed a significant transformation in one of your clients' lives after they realigned their own work or to better reflect their personal values and goals?
Yes, absolutely. So the stories I shared, Amanda and Donna were both clients, but I'll share another one. So one of the things that we find to be quite common, especially as we primarily work with women, but as people age in their careers, right, they become experts in their industry in corporate space, right? A lot of conversations I start to hear from people are, I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to own my own time now. I have a great skill set. How do I do this thing? Right. So I have one client, we'll call her Ashley. Don't want to out anybody, right? We'll call her Ashley. So Ashley was an incredibly successful salesperson in the role that she was in, right? But it wasn't working for her for a number of reasons. That is her story to tell. And she wanted to start her own business, but she was really deliberate and thoughtful on the way that she went about it. So we met and we did our one-on-one defining success workshop together, which is also an opportunity. But we met, and that was in fall of 2022. And we worked together to put together like an 18-month transition plan for her, because that's what felt comfortable to her. That's what she wanted to do. She knew her numbers, all of the things. And she really wanted to focus on helping women in sales roles and women entrepreneurs become better sales people. So she took the skill that she had and then she connected it to the thing that was like rooted into her personal purpose, right? And so we helped her launch a sales consultancy. And as of the beginning of this year, she's no longer working with that company. So it was the 18-month plan. And she's killing it, man. She's killing it. She goes for runs
That's
every
awesome.
morning. She's loving her life. She's manifested a lot of other things that she really wanted to happen for herself personally and professionally. She's living her best life. And that was because she was really honest with herself. She got clear and she took strategically calculated moves to make that transition. I have the same story about another actual sales consultant who's a single mom, got laid off on maternity leave. That doesn't go over well with most people. And she launched her sales consultancy too. And within a year of us working together, she was operating in a capacity that most small business owners aren't operating in until like years 3 or 4, sometimes later than that. But because she was really, really clear about what she wanted and how she was building her business accordingly.
Wow. I love it. That's exciting. Again, motivating. Looks like we might be Be good. All right. Oh no, one just popped in. Hold on. Oh, this is interesting. The concept of building a support network seems so important. How do you suggest going about identifying and engaging the right kind of support network that aligns with your vision for success, especially in an industry where you might be in the minority?
Ooh, that is so good. And you're
That's an
absolutely
interesting
right. It
question.
is so important. So, what I would say, so part of defining success, so I give you guys like little snippets, but when we do this work, actually, there's like a lot of exercises, a lot of pieces to it, right? This is just like a little bit. One of the things that I would recommend you consider is do a deep dive on your personal values. So when you get really clear on your personal values, what matters to you as a human being, oftentimes what we find is it's when those are being violated in some way, shape, or form, that's when we experience like frustration, anxiety, angst, all of the like disruption. So if you can get really clear on your personal values and you feel comfortable sharing those, what I've found to be true is when you vocalize the things that matter most to you, that are important to you, other people that share those same things will start to gravitate towards you. But you have to be willing to put it out there. I mean, I know some situations that might ruffle some feathers, so you kind of have to feel it out a little bit. But when you get really clear on your personal values, it also makes it easier to identify those in other people. At least that's what I found to be true. I feel very fortunate that I've developed an incredible support network of professionals, many women, but also there are some amazing men in my network as well. But we share similar values, and that's really what makes us connected in that way. Is that we know that we're operating from the same starting point.
Awesome. All right. I think we're going to be good because we only have 1 minute left anyway. Um, but okay. Kylie, thank you so much for doing this for us. I
Thank
think we have
you.
to do it again. This was a
All
lot of
right.
fun. But thank you for speaking. Thank you for being on the webinar. For those of you who'd like to get a hold of Kylie, I would say the first thing I subscribe to her podcast. So it's Welcome to Eloma. It's ELOM as in Mary A. There's also a website for it. It's Welcome to Emola. That's a wine. That's a Merlot actually made by the Wagner family. It's welcome to Eloma.com. You can also get a hold of her at KyliePeters.com, rain9.com, and rain9 is RAYNEIX.com, by the way. And she's also
Yep.
on Instagram, the socials. So it's at Kylie Peters, at rain9, and at welcome to Eloma. So check all those out. Use the QR code that you've got here to get a hold of her. But thank you all so much for attending. Thank you, Kylie, again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.